we had, you know what I mean? It's based on previous year cases, which takes into account STAR and yada yada, all those other things that we have to think about. And so now what they're doing is they're taking those new TEKs and they're saying, okay, wait, we've got some new TEKs here, how are we gonna put them in there? And so we actually have our district, and I just printed this is brand new, hot off the presses from our district. This is our first unit, so it's basically the first 9 weeks in 5th grade. And it's got the, you know, it kind of shows, because we're being introduced to these TEKs new, our K2 teachers are not. They've been introduced to them a couple of years ago. But, so now they're introducing us, and they've kind of given us, this is our planning guide, but it's based off of this sequence that they've kind of planned out for us. And they've pasted out on a calendar, which, when I look at the pacing calendar for this upcoming year, really doesn't look much different than last year.
Sure.
The concepts, because in math, luckily, our concepts are still the same. Our big ideas are still the big ideas in 5th grade. They've just thrown some new stuff in. I mean, we didn't multiply decimals last year.
Right.
You know, those are new. So
Right.
that had to be put into the context of the basic plan that they gave us.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of what
Maybe a
Northeast.
printout of those, Donna, would be a nice discussion among the 5th grade teachers.
So, I mean, it's, and they did, I mean, it just,
It's nice when the district does that for you.
So we don't have that.
We're from Lockhart,
at
we
all.
teach 5th grade, I teach Palm Creek, at Palm Creek. They teach at Navarro, Clearfork, and same district. And we all have different scope and sequences, because we don't,
Campus space.
right. So something like
Well,
that,
that's not necessarily bad though, if
And
you
then
all
class
of you
to
worked on
class.
it together.
right. No, it's great if we could work on it together.
No, I meant even within your campus, because if you really wrestle with it, you understand it, and you have ownership of it, and you know it's not somebody handing you something,
I see what you
and then
mean.
you have to implement somebody
Yeah.
else's ideas.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad idea, if they give you time to do it, which
Yeah.
they
Right.
don't usually do.
That's the problem. And you know what we need
Guys,
to
you
do?
know what, if teachers would vote, you would not have these problems.
Yeah, thank you. I've been saying that.
What we end up doing is using the Measuring Up book. It's a workbook, and it's got an outline. And, you know, they've done the research, and you know, they get the big bucks for making this book, and they've done that. So there is a somewhat scope and sequence at the beginning, and we usually somewhat follow it
For math.
for math and for science, but we do change a few things here and there for science.
Don't trust science, don't
Yeah,
trust
we
science,
don't-
scope and sequence
Yeah,
from
we don't-
anybody.
Yeah.
They do not have it horizontally aligned.
Right.
No, it's horrible.
I mean, even, Jen and Zenaida, I told you the story about speed. They are the two who discovered it. And they're the ones who said, wait a minute, we're teaching speed, but the math's taught, we're teaching speed in September and the math's taught in November.
I think they're doing it again this year because of the way the new TEKs change with math. And then they changed this, I don't know if they changed the 6th grade, but there's something to do, again, where something's at the beginning and it's like, but they don't use that math until like
In
February.
6th grade.
Something like that, 6th grade.
I
Something
would
weird.
think that with the revised math teach, with them moving down so many concepts, you're not gonna see as much conflict with that horizontal alignment as we did before.
In a few years.
In a few years, exactly.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, it's gonna
well, I
take
do
time.
know that in 5th grade in Northeast, just to help y'all out, our whole last, like, you know, 6 to 8 weeks of school was all the TEKs that are new to this. The revised TEKs, it was all of those. So we were looking at those. So my 5th graders that I just taught, that I just am sending to 6th grade next year, have seen the TEKs that I'm gonna be starting with in the fall. They saw them in May. So they were
Did we
doing that
say they
stuff.
learned them in May?
They were learning them, they were
They were
working on them.
exposed to them.
I was teaching to death. Now, I can't say what everybody else in the district was doing.
That was the same issue when the science TEKs
Right.
changed. And they moved like periodic table down to 6th grade and they moved cells up to
No,
7th
actually, they
grade.
did not move periodic table, they moved the prerequisite knowledge of periodic table. Periodic table is not till 8th grade.
Sorry, metals, non-metals, metalloids.
Yeah.
That one.
They are, the science teach revision teams are going to start meeting this fall.
Sorry.
You get comfortable and then they shake it up again.
Okay, other questions about your lesson plan?
Would it be okay idea to take like, say, a experiment that you did with your kiddos last year that was kind of tossed together to format it into a lesson plan?
Okay, a danger in taking a favorite activity and making a lesson plan means that you don't have a learning objective that's beginning to end in mind. Jen, what did your slide say? Did it say begin with the end in mind?
Start
That
with
was
the
it?
T, you always start with the T.
Yeah, you always start with your learning objective, in our case, the teach. So unless there's an important learning objective, that's not the way to start.
Okay.
You always start with your learning objective. I am old, I have taught, Lord, how many years? Probably almost 50 years, all right? Taught a long time.
They don't use them.
I am old, this one. And if I don't have that learning objective in front of me, I start chasing rabbit trails, because I know a lot of science. I know a lot of directions I can go.
When I put the-
And if it is not right there in front of me, I'm gonna go off.
Because when I put the experiment together, it had an objective and it brought in both math and science because that's kind of where I do health and math. But it was just, this is what I want them to learn, and it was, you just kind of put it together and did it, but I didn't have like a formal, nice, fancy.
Tea.
Well, you're gonna decide, I'm not gonna decide what you're gonna do in the
Okay.
lesson. You guys are gonna decide. What I think it might be ready for now, and then y'all can build on Thursday, is this is the format that we think will be helpful for you. Alicia, is going to pass them out. But when my students, when we're doing collaborative planning, we put the learning objective up on the board. Don't we? And it's there the whole time we're doing the planning
I brought
and the
two
conversations.
health, it was science and math in one, in my own little lesson, in my own little way, but not any formal.
Well, it may be that's what you wanna do, that may be, because you know it and it's easy, that may be what you wanna try to do to make it a more powerful lesson, because it's better thought out, better planned. We're not gonna decide that, you're gonna decide what you need. I suggest that you start with something that you need immediately, you're gonna use the first 6 weeks, maybe even the first week. Okay, so Alicia's gonna pass this out, and these actually are guidelines that we got from Jen and Z that we've kind of expanded and added to it.
I have a question. If we were to collaborate, would that be a problem since we both teach math and science? We would be doing like the same lesson?
Oh, yeah.
I think it would fit.
Okay, wait, that's a good question. This is a good question. Who should be your partner? You need to kind of think about what would work best. Johnny and Brenda are from the same school district, and their schools are just right down the street from each other. So they decided they would work well together, Johnny's science and Brenda's math. So that seemed to work well. So you figure out what kind of, if they work well with your team that you came with, because that's how it was supposed to be. But if you're a singleton, it may be, and you are 4, 5, and 6, is that right, grades 4, 5, and 6?
Third, fourth, fifth.
Third, fourth, and fifth, all right, something like that. So you would need to be with another fifth grade teacher. And I don't know, what all grade levels are you teaching?
3rd through 8th.
Third grade, so, that might be a match, I don't know. You decide who you want to work with. I don't want to see more than 3 together. It ends up not being good if it's too many. All right. At the end of each day of lesson planning, not today and not tomorrow, at the end of each day, we're gonna have a report out time or debriefing time. And you will take on a big poster paper and your team will write out wherever you are, it's kind of like a status report. So here's our learning objective, here's where we are so far, we have conversations about it, we ask you questions, you ask us questions, and it's to help you think more deeply about the lesson that you're planning. And we'll do that each day. And remember, I said, I'll be happy if you come out with one lesson at the end of 2 weeks. So we want you to think deeply about it, not just turn out a bunch of, shallow ones and thin ones, so to speak. Yes, ma'am?
This could be a project-based learning lesson?
Yeah. Yeah. Because their district is saying, oh, here's another magic bullet. We've been doing PBLs for decades, guys.
Yeah. It's not very good.
Well, no, it's great.
You know, the engaged program they told us
Oh,
wasn't.
okay, but, I mean, Jen, Gleichert is doing, she did a chicken egg hatch at the end of the year. It was so rich, I mean, it's such a great idea, and it's kind of like you guys doing a PBL. It's just very rich, lots of math and science and writing, all in there.
Yes, the gym that was sitting right there.
Oh, yeah, Tom.
You know, Jen. Yeah. So, let me review this with you a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn it back to you ladies, so y'all can lead any other kind of discussion. On the first page, it gives you some background information, and, it talks about the second bullet there, who your audience is gonna be. Don't assume when you get up to explain things that we know what you're talking about, okay? As I tell my students, I want you to explain it to death with very precise language. The bullets, where it talks about focus on teaching there, goes back to what we said earlier about the TEKS, and you're gonna select TEKS that link together. We've also said, which is what the first bullet said, that sometimes it's easier to have a science-led one and see where the math is to kind of get an idea of what an integrated lesson looks like, but we don't care. You make your choice, and we don't care which one it is. Whatever, if you're the math teacher and it's a math-led lesson, you're gonna teach that lesson math conceptually. And you're not teaching the other discipline conceptually, you're just teaching one discipline conceptually. If it's a math-led lesson, you're teaching the math conceptually, and you're not teaching the science conceptually. If it's a science-led lesson, you're teaching the science conceptually, and what do you wanna do in a science-led lesson, what do we say? Use a proper math vocabulary. Don't teach tricks. And then there's some other components that might appropriately fit in there. Use of equipment or math equipment or math manipulatives, if it fits. Don't put the square peg into a round hole. That's a nice social studies lesson, if y'all don't know about that. So the correct language for each discipline, and that goes back to what the team here was saying, that it's all about collaboration, it's all about talking with each other. There may be parallel ideas like graphing that we just discussed, and make sure that you have very precise language. If I were doing it, I would start building my PowerPoint so I've got that precise language in there and that proper phrasing of it. So I'm not reverting back to sloppy, vague language that my students are not going to understand. If you have a concept that you can teach with inquiry, fine. There is on the back here a blank. We'll give you an electronic copy of this so you can type in what you like for the 5E. If it needs to be a direct instructional model, then there is a direct instructional model blank on the last page. We don't care which one you do, doesn't matter. Best practices for any of them. If you like, if you're not sure, have the discussion with us. We can tell you whether or not, in general, what is the rule? Concepts are inquiry, 5Es is one type. Our processes and skills in science are direct instructional model. But remember,